Hello and welcome to the Confusion Wrestling Podcast, the last bastion of independent wrestling. I'm your host, Rob Kammer, and as I'm bringing you this introduction, I am sitting in sunny Salem, Massachusetts, outside of my cornfield-based basement where I usually sit in my hot tub filled with pizza rolls, but I was forced to exit said hot tub filled with pizza rolls and travel the country, so I guess this makes me a multi-state superstar now, is a thing. So I guess I'm traveling, so if you need to book me for shows, I am available for shows outside of Illinois and Iowa, I guess, now that this is happening, and I'm terrified and fearing for my life every moment I am out of the hot tub. But yeah, as such, obviously, I've made no secret that these interviews are usually in the can. Episodes are usually in the can a day or two. Maybe, very rarely, but sometimes a little bit longer. But yeah, so I'm traveling the country. We got this interview with Seabass Finn. Going to be dropping that in a couple of minutes, so really good things to say about him. Really interesting conversation, and we talked about a bunch of stuff. Well, actually, not really a bunch of stuff. We just picked like a handful of topics and kind of like deep dived on it. And there's so much more to be had, but I try to be respectful of his time, and I try to be respectful of all of your time, and try to keep the talks down to an hour or less usually, unless you're JT Energy and want to blow through all of those cues to wind things down a bit. So, as I said, Seabass Finn is coming up. Also, since I'm out of state, next week we might kind of skip having an episode or so. I don't know. If something falls into my lap, we'll do it. But I'm not going to go out of my way to record anything extra unless the muse strikes or someone's like, "Hey, Rob, in the 2-day window between the time you get back and when you normally drop things, I'd like to come on." Like, yeah, maybe we'll wing something for that. But as it stands right now, I'm going to just say the episode for the 22nd, the week after the 22nd, is gonna be probably null and void. That being said, though, got some couple cool guests coming up in the near future. Otherwise, outside of that, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. Mickey Knuckles is coming back to the show. She was one of the first guests to grace their presence on the audio realm of Confusion, like the third guest ever, second wrestling based guest. I did have a rising R&B artist in the form of Purr Music being number one, Eric Esnight number two, and Mickey Knuckles, which is, I feel like, a really big get for a fledgling interviewing based podcast, number three. So cool, we'll have her back on, and got some other people lined up in the meanwhile. But yeah, rattled on too much for this introduction for my liking. Not going to cut any of it out, because why would I do that? Why would I start now? I've been rattling on coherently for pretty near 6 years, so it's what I do. It's what you guys come here. It's the kind of content you've come to expect from a master orator such as myself. That being said, though, I also got to be held to people who pay me money, so let's go ahead and just take a pause for the cause. Get yourself an energy drink, a coffee, even a coffee machine, and I'll be back un momento with Seabass Finn. Hey folks, the Confusion Wrestling Podcast has become a veritable hub of shopping and treats and all that sort of good stuff. Whether you need a sugar-free alternative to energy drinks in the form of Raise Energy, or maybe even, top-of-the-line ice makers, coffee machines, and other household appliances, all through my links section. All you got to do is wander down to the descriptor of this week's episode, check out the various links, click on them, and go shopping like you normally would. Heck, like, it's no difference. You just came in and just said Rob sent you. And that way, you can get the things you need, maybe even at a discount, and the podcast gets a kickback as well. So be sure to check out those links. Thank you very much for listening. Back to the show. And we are back, the Confusion Wrestling Podcast. As I said at the top of the show, sitting with me in the studio this evening is a special guest. It is Seabass Finn. Finn, how are you doing this evening, man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, can't complain. At least, I mean, I could because we've had some technical issues getting into this, but uh, welcome to technology, or AI overlords controlling our lives. But we're here now. It's golden until it cuts out on me again because I spoke ill of them. But before that happens, we should just pretend it never happened and jump right into talking about you. I always like to start off the podcast with the always original, never asked question in the history of wrestling podcasts. What got you into professional wrestling? What made you a fan of the sport?
That's a great question. So, I grew up watching pro wrestling with my dad. It was kind of a thing that we bonded over. When I was a kid, every Friday night I'd put on my designated Friday night pajamas and watch Friday Night SmackDown with my dad. Um, we'd watch pay-per-views together from time to time, when we had a free Sunday. I also grew up doing amateur wrestling. I started that in second grade. Uh, Funny enough, when I got into it, and my dad asked me, "Oh, you want to start, this wrestling?" My first question was, "Can I use a chair?" Um, I could not, unfortunately. I just had to use myself. So I did that from second grade through college. And while I was in college, I this was during COVID. I couldn't do collegiate wrestling, so I started training in professional wrestling at the New England Pro Wrestling Academy in North Andover, Massachusetts, and I've been pursuing that kind of full time or to the fullest since 2022 when I graduated college.
That's actually pretty interesting, and we'll cover training here in a moment. But you talked about kind of being a fan and talking about being a fan during college. A lot of folks kind of like waver in between, usually childhood and adulthood. Did you stay a fan through the entire teenage years?
Uh, no, I think there was like probably some portion where I kind of like checked out. I don't know if it was when I started taking amateur wrestling a little more seriously in like seventh grade. I joined a wrestling club in Massachusetts and kind of pursued that a lot more. So I didn't have a lot of time to watch TV every week or go to shows and whatnot. Um, I was pretty focused on amateur wrestling for a good portion of my like adolescent years, and then I think I kind of picked it back up towards the end of high school. I can't remember I don't know if there was like a big return or somebody was coming back or wrestling was kind of starting to boom again. I know that in my later years in high school, I started doing some like passion projects or whatever. My English teacher made us do like almost like a TED talk. It's like what could you talk about for 20-30 minutes, nonstop. And I was like, oh, like probably pro wrestling is what I could talk about. So I did that. And we did like another project where like, it was kind of like, what's your dream? And I was like, oh, I guess it's pro wrestling. So I like started researching, how I would make that dream a reality in the project. And that's when I came across the New England Pro Wrestling Academy as a potential avenue for training. And through that, I discovered independent wrestling and the promotion that I now call home, Chaotic Wrestling. And I started going to shows towards the end of high school for Chaotic Wrestling. And it just slowly became more prevalent that, oh, like this could very well be a reality.
I gotta ask, like, how much was a mind blowing thing to find out like there's wrestling like outside of. Well, I guess about that time there'd still be a big two, but like how like outside of like the televised wrestling, like how much was that kind of a mind blow to discover like independent wrestling and that there might be wrestling, in my town or next town over or hour away, depending on whatever your area is at.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Just like I'd go to shows as a kid and go to like the live event shows or a SmackDown or a Raw. I went to Survivor Series in 2008, and then to like in 2017 2018 go to a show maybe 40 minutes from my house that I could be 20 or 10 feet away from the action as opposed to, all the way back in the nosebleeds. It was pretty shocking, but also like really, really cool. And I think that's something that like I share with so many other, professional wrestling fans who go to independent shows and, realize, oh, I like, I'm so much closer to the action and so much more intimate experience. It was really cool to kind of discover that.
I agree. That was like one of the first things. Like once I figured out like there was independent wrestling and I could go to it, and just I still joke that like I think I've only gone to like 5 shows that have anything that resembles barricades, uh, for better or for worse at various times. Um, but I also loved like, and this is kind of sidebarring off of it, just especially with the indies, like seeing the people like seeing the people like come in, come out, how they grow within the promotion, and seeing kind of what they do, elsewhere, see if they can make some name value. I mean, I'm spoiled to a lesser extent, and we got the Black and Brave over here, so we got a lot of folks like fresh out of school, like doing stuff, and I can just watch them grow in real time. And then you got some folk that are traveling the world or on TV, such as Nathan Frazier, Maggie Lee, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But like, it's crazy, go nuts, like the independent experience as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. I like am experiencing that firsthand. Somebody who I watched in chaotic wrestling a handful of times when I go to shows was a guy by the name of Bear Bronson, who had
He's
some.
killing it now.
Yeah, yeah. Had some success in the past few years working with AEW. Now he's back in the Indies, and I just teamed with him this past weekend. And like about a month ago, I wrestled him in a fatal 4-way match. And just to go from like watching him wrestle in this tiny little facility in Lowell, Massachusetts, to seeing him on TV, and then now working with him is absolutely insane.
That's honestly, that's crazy goodness, because yeah, as I said, he's killing it right now. So he's he's building himself up after his AEW or Ring of Honor departure, as you put it. Um, I want to ask, is there anything specific that drew you to the New England Pro Wrestling Academy over, say, other schools, or was that just kind of like, oh, this is nearby, this seems reputable, let's do it?
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely a like no brainer. Only 40 minutes from my house, and they every so often we do these fantasy camps where you pay about $80 and they teach you the basics. They teach you to run the ropes, take a bump, jump off the top rope, things like that. And I did like 3 of them uh, before actually signing up in 2020. So I had a little bit of a like taste of what it was like, and having an amateur background definitely helped kind of pick up things, even just an athletic background alone. But yeah, I and a lot of other people here, even our trainers, say that we're one of the best schools in New England, if not the country.
And then I have to go ask about that, since you did like the training camps. Like, how did the training camps like compare to actual training? And then we'll piggyback off of that. Was like, how did training for amateur wrestling kind of contrast with getting ready for the pro wrestling style?
Yeah. So the fantasy camps are pretty condensed. There's people from all walks of life and all sorts of different backgrounds. So you kind of have to crunch everything you can into about like a 4 or 5 hour period where you're learning the basics, like how to run the ropes, how to take a bump, how to exit the ring safely, how to enter the ring safely. Very, very basic stuff. You're not doing anything crazy. You're not having a match or doing intricate spots. And then when it comes down to the training, we typically start with some conditioning, some rolls, some rope hits and stuff like that. And then we'll do pretty much some what we call blow up drills, or things to kind of get your lungs open and get your body moving. And then it can go anywhere from working on something small like strikes, or maybe we'll have some class matches, or to do some drills, um, and that will, after about like an hour, 2 hour period, we'll uh, after we do kind of all the warm up stuff, we'll break off, and there'll be a beginner ring or like intermediate, and then advanced. For um, students who are farther along in their pro wrestling training. But the training's awesome. I really can't say enough about how great it is to train at what we abbreviate to NEPWA, as opposed to saying the New England Pro Wrestling Academy. And then in terms of amateur wrestling to pro wrestling, the big differences are, um, you know, um, the two things that I really had to focus on when kind of making the switch was just how tense I was. You know, in amateur wrestling, you're trying to control somebody else's body while controlling your own. So you have to be kind of rigid and stiff and rough and stuff. But and there is times for that in pro wrestling. But with pro wrestling, you have to be able to move freely and cooperate and stuff like that. The other thing was also just a matter of like posture. So standing tall as opposed to being hunched over in a amateur wrestling stance. Um, that was a little bit of a struggle. But really just having an athletic background, being able to roll, being able to have some, good control over my body, um, really, really helped me and allowed me to progress pretty quickly um, in pro wrestling training. I think maybe only a month or so in, I had my first class match, and I was kind of just, thrown into the fire with the Wolves very early on because of how classes worked with COVID and stuff. My first couple of my first week and maybe first 2 or 3 weeks, I was kind of in almost like private training sessions where it was just me and two other people, and the my trainer Chase Del Monte was just kind of saying, "All right, let's try this, let's move on, next thing," and then I was kind of thrown into the advanced group where I was training with wrestlers who have been, working for anywhere from 1 year to, 5, 10 years. So it was a little difficult, but a very unique training experience for me.
Sounds like, and that's one of those things I like to bring up if I find out is COVID training, because the world went crazy, go nuts, and we couldn't do things like we could for nearly a solid year, whether it was through the actual lockdowns or the social distancing restrictions and all that stuff. And wrestling is very much, well, one, social, and two, there's no social distancing in wrestling. You are tying up and rolling around, and who knows how big the ring is at wherever you're at various points. So like, how weird was that, being kind of like forced to work through those COVID restrictions so early on?
Yeah. It was a struggle. I think we kept the class sizes pretty small as best as we could, just to kind of mitigate any potential, sickness transmission and stuff. And then when it came time, when I started being sort of deemed show ready, we were kind of able to transform our training facility into a like collapsible studio. So we still have to this day some like studio lights screwed into like the walls and the ceiling. So we'll kill the house lights and put on the studio lights, and the ring is kind of spotlighted. So we would have these tapings every so often where a bunch of people would come together. The students would kind of be the live crowd, and we would put on these little shows that would get taped and then released over a set of a couple weeks. And that's actually where I made my debut, in front of all of my students, or my fellow students and wrestlers, just at my school. And it was very, very weird. Like there's definitely a lot of people who definitely share that experience of debuting during the pandemic. So it's nice to kind of like bond over that because now a lot of those people are kind of on the come up and really starting to get out there.
It's actually a lot similar to what Black and Brave did. Is that they started hosting? They throw up on their Patreon, and I think that if I remember correctly, they made their Patreon free for like the duration, and like every other week they were throwing up shows with the roster. In addition to, they also started like experimenting with cinematic style matches, which were also very interesting, as were most cinematic style matches. Um, but in addition to the New England wrestling, you have down that you've trained with the New Japan dojo in America.
Yes. So in I want to say May of 2023, as I was kind of just really starting to pursue professional wrestling to the fullest, and getting around New England, I saw that the New Japan Academy had opened up and had their first graduating class in the beginning of 2023, and that they were opening their doors again for a second class. So I applied and heard back very quickly that I was accepted. I'm not really sure what the grounds for like applying and being accepted were. Other than that, I was had some prior training and was accepted into the advanced course. So I packed up all my stuff, and in July I drove out with one of my good friends, Sean Keegan, and we lived in Inglewood, California, for about 3 months at an Airbnb that was probably smaller than the ring that we trained in. Um, we got very very close over the course of 3 months. We were literally sleeping in two separate beds, but they were almost right on top of each other. Not quite bunk beds, but there was a trundle mattress that pulled out from the regular mattress, the bed in the Airbnb. And we went twice a week to the dojo in Carson, California, and trained under Fred Rosser and Kushida, along with 8 other people. It was a pretty tight class of like 10 people. So the attention to training was a lot different. At Nepois today, we could have anywhere from 5 to 30, maybe even 40 students in a class. So to be able to relocate, to be in a different part of the country, and to train under Fred and Kushida was really really cool. And it was nice that I was able to share that experience with Sean. It's something that we got to experience together, and the training was top notch. I really can't say enough about enough good things about the New Japan Academy. I think if any professional wrestler wants to up their skills and learn a new style, they should definitely take the leap and go out there.
I heard that they do really good work out there, and obviously, like that's to be expected if New Japan was going to keep any sort of ties with that. I do have to ask though that you literally went clear across the country for this experience. Like, was there any sort of culture shock going from New England to California?
Yeah, definitely. Biggest culture shock was the traffic.
Oh Lord.
I think that people think that Boston traffic is bad, or even New York, just East Coast traffic in general. But getting on like the 405 or even I-5 to go to like San Diego or north to San Francisco, it's a whole different beast. Also, just the fact that I think a lot of people in New England take our region for granted in the realm of professional wrestling. Some people can double shot shows in a day, and sometimes in rare occasions even triple shot shows, and go from one town to another in the course of a day or even a weekend, and get 3 or 4 matches in a weekend. In On the West Coast, it's very very difficult to do that because everything is just so spread out. Everything's so much bigger. The states, the highways. Um, just to go from one show to another, you're looking at a minimum of maybe 2 hours. And that's if you're lucky. If you have one show in the LA area, then another show in San Diego, that's minimum hour and a half, 2 hour ride without traffic. San Francisco's 6 hours. Arizona's like 3 or 4 hours. So that was definitely a big culture shock, is just how spread out everything is and how much harder it is to get around.
But you brought up how like the proximity to like everything is, and it reminds me of spoke with the Gavel David Lawless recently, and he's pulling at least like 50 matches a year, not even like 90 minutes from his home, and it's like crazy go nuts, just like what a bastion just I mean, the Pennsylvania area is, and then just the rest of New England to go along with it. And just like I pull up Cage Match, then that's how I do chunks of my research in addition to the other social medias and YouTube and all that stuff. And just like seeing some of the places you worked, and like, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, like oh those are actually probably not that far from each other when we're really looking at it. Um, and but yeah, I think it's just like crazy, like how much how much wrestling there is in the New England area, and how like compared to like the others like other states, like just where you can go to get wrestling with just an hour, maybe two, as you put it, like even doing like double shots in the same day, which like blows my mind out here, where like we got to at least travel like 90 minutes in between like most promotions. Kind of like tailoring it in a bit again, like I've going over like the places you've worked and whatnot. Chaotic is your home, but like dare I make you play favorites with other promotions? Like, so what is your favorite places to work besides Chaotic?
Ooh, all right. Well, I'd say my second home, which is also uh, attached to the New England Pro Wrestling Academy, is Rad Pro Wrestling. It just began a few years ago. Um, that is overseen by my other trainer, Max Smashmaster. It's very, very different from any other wrestling promotion you'll see. You can check it out on IWTV. I do not wrestle as Seabass Finn in Rad Pro. I am the Fern, one half of the Plant Based Profits and current Rad Pro Wrestling Tag Team Champions. It's for me kind of like a breath of fresh air. Not that I don't enjoy wrestling as myself, I do very much. But to time travel back to the 1990s, which is where this promotion takes place, and wrestle differently, is so much fun. The locker room is a blast. There's a lot of great talent and a lot of fun people from the area. And it's very liberating to have just kind of a new thing, and be able to kind of present it almost entirely how you please. It's a lot of fun. I imagine it's just as fun, if not more fun, for the viewers to see some of their favorite local independent wrestlers painted in a different light. I also really enjoy working for Pro Wrestling Grind. That's in Western Massachusetts. They very much kind of harbor a different style. I'd say more tailored to that of Japanese strong style. And I always really enjoy going down there. That's a place that I've kind of worked hard to get my foot in the door there. With it being so close to where I went to college. I went to college at Springfield College in Western Massachusetts. So, I discovered it while I was down there. And then, when I started training and getting out there more, I'd show up and help out, as many wrestlers do across many promotions. And, eventually over time, I got my foot in the door and got my chance. And um, I really really enjoy working there. I have a show coming up at the end of the month with Pro Wrestling Grind, and it should be a good one. Um, Other one is probably that I really enjoy working is Limitless Wrestling. Uh, Definitely one of the biggest independent wrestling promotions in New England. We just had a show at the Lewiston Coliseum, same building where Muhammad Ali fought Sonny Liston all those years ago. And that was for the 2025 Vacation Lane Cup show. Um, I wasn't in the tournament, but I got to be in a pretty high marquee match, teaming with Tommy Dreamer and Bear Bronson against the System from TNA. There were about 2,000 people at that show. It was absolutely insane. I was very, very grateful to have that opportunity to wrestle on that show for Limitless, and just to wrestle for Limitless in general. I know they began in 2015 and have just, had so much success over, um, you know, pretty much the past decade, coming up on the anniversary show in September.
This is almost like that I set you up for this, because I'm not gonna lie, like I don't keep like detailed questions or anything, but in like my notes, I'm just like ask about this, and two of those three promotions I was going to at least touch base on with Rad Pro Wrestling, Grind Puro. So Finn will be the first to tell you my idea of prepping him is really next to nothing. It's a couple of detailed emails, but I don't give him a list of questions, or like I don't even give him topics to talk about. I just went like training. Like I can't remember like what my detailed email says. It's just like training, like I don't know, maybe like favorites, and then literally it says etc. But that's great that you knocked off like two of those three. But yeah, I love Grind because it's so different from a lot of American indies, just because they do focus, they're very Japanese influenced. And like I felt bad, I didn't even notice it was of its existence until I got to have Delmi Exo on the show, and she's like, hey, I actually run a promotion. I'm like, man, there goes my research, because I didn't know that. I just wanted to talk about you being, going to Germany and Japan and being MLW champion. And instead she's like, oh, by the way, I'm like, whoop de doodle. But no, they put on like a really good show. So after that, I made it a point to go watch it, and love Grind. Like if you're into strong style, like that's one of the places to go in America. Just viewing it, that's on a WTV too. But I definitely want to talk a little bit more about Rad Pro Wrestling, because I've made an unabashed fan of the show of like one, characters. I absolutely love characters in wrestling. Like I appreciate me a good 5-star match, but I do love me people who are running around pretending to be cattle or something of the like. Um, and that's one of the things I loved. I've put on the show old wrestling, Marion Fontaine's promotion, where that's out of the 1920s, and Rad was kind of a natural offshoot. Like once I figured out it existed as well, through Landon Hale, who's worked a handful of shows in there as well. But the whole like Rad 90s vibe to it is great. And just again, like as you put it, just coming in, like seeing different characters that are established from people that you realize, and like sometimes you just see names pop up like in like results or for adverts for the show, and then you'll just be like, oh wait, Seabass Finn is the Fern. Dude, what's up with that? Or insert other name here. Like if you're willing to pull back the curtain a little bit, like like when it comes to like, we'll focus on like the Fern, but like how much of that was your idea, and how much of that was the promoter going like, hey, I got this idea that I think would be perfect for you?
Mm. Yeah, the Fern wasn't supposed to exist. Oddly enough, uh, I think there was another plan. I think for me to be in a different tag team, and I won't spoil that idea because it is a good idea, and hopefully it could still happen.
Keep it in the pocket.
Yeah, absolutely. But like when I was coming back, and from LA, and Sean and I had just kind of shared that whole experience. Max Smashmaster, my trainer who oversees Rad Pro, was like, I think I'll put you and Sean together as a tag team. And he's like, would you be okay being a vegan cultist in this, wacky promotion? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And he was like, all right, let's, think of some names, some plant related names. And I think I tossed around like, oh, what if I was like Fern something? And he was like, no, you're just going to be the Fern. And so then we kind of, pitched some ideas for, what would I look like? What would I wear? But the whole kind of acting out the character was really all my idea. I don't speak or at least say any words. Although I did just say my first words a couple shows ago, which was "sad boy." You can watch the show and find out how that came to be. But yeah, the firm was never supposed to happen, but just through scheduling and just how consistent I'd be working for the promotion. Max decided to put me in a tag team with Sean, and the rest is history. Earlier this year, we were in a tournament to crown the first tag team champions, and we were given that. That's actually the first title I've ever won in my professional wrestling career, and I'm very grateful that it was, in my home promotion, and that it was kind of bestowed upon me by my trainer to, have that honor and be the champion tag team of the promotion. And I'm very, very grateful to be given that and to share that with a friend like Sean.
That is awesome. People like to dismiss winning titles, but it's titles are definitely I mean, if I dumb it down a whole lot and wash away a lot of the emotion, is very much like a pat on the back and a vote of confidence of like, you, and in this case, you and your partner are the ones we want to carry this division and to be kind of a focus for what we're doing in the tag team scene.
Thank you.
So like, congrats on that. Especially for it to be close, especially with being close to home. Like not everybody gets to, hold gold at home. A lot of folks have to go somewhere else to do it. I also have to ask, going along with the changing character, like how is it that much of a challenge to go for like, since you wrestle most of the time as Seabass, is there a challenge going from Seabass to the Fern, like working the crowd, working the match? Because I know some folks like they'll change character over the years and there's really no difference between the two of them. I'll throw Kevin Nash under the bus for that one. Like Diesel and Kevin Nash were pretty much the same thing, except Nash was a little bit snarkier, and he didn't dye his hair anymore for the most part. But everything else was almost exactly the same, like the moveset, mannerisms, etc. But what is there a challenge going from one character to the other, and basically, essentially, like you're performing them concurrently, just different weekends or different days of the week, depending on how your schedule pans out?
Yeah, it was a little bit challenging at first to kind of pinpoint, like, okay, how do I present myself like differently from Seabass. So it really just kind of came to. Sorry, there's a train going by. Not sure if you can hear it. We're right near a T stop.
I'd stay in Galesburg, Illinois, if I wanted to hear trains.
Yeah, but just kind of question in my head. Okay, if I'm this kind of humanoid plant, living plant, how would I walk around? What would I say, if anything? How would I wrestle? And I typically work as a babyface as Seabass. The Fern is a heel character, so sometimes it's not necessarily about wrestling entirely differently, but really just wrestling with a different purpose. Maybe I'm looking more to hurt my opponent as opposed to win the match as a heel. Doing more cheap tactics like eye rakes and cheap shots, stuff like that. Um, a really big challenge is that I can't speak. I tag with Sean um, from time to time as Seabass, but then when it came to tagging with him as the Fern and Leaf Montgomery, which is Sean's name, it's a little bit more of a challenge in terms of communicating. Sometimes I have to almost be more physical and make mannerisms. I also wrestle in a mask and a like morph bodysuit, so I'm apt to maybe get a little more tired more quickly. Um, so I have to conserve my energy and things like that. But also being in a mask, I can't entirely express how I feel with my face, so I have to express that through my body and things like that. But it's the kind of change of character has really allowed me to kind of be more creative. And I definitely think the biggest inspiration for the Fern is probably Delirious. Um, Both, just kind of jabbering on about nonsense and being incoherent, no pun intended, um, and just wild and insane. Um, that's kind of where I draw a little bit of the inspiration from, and uh, Rad Pro Wrestling as a promotion being um, influenced a little bit by Chikara, which is where my trainer Max Smashmaster wrestled for many years. Um, I've taken initiative to go back and watch old shows from Chikara and from that time, and kind of use that as inspiration for this character. Um, so there's definitely a lot more to it than what you see on the shows.
I didn't even think about bringing up the mask and bodysuit aspect of it too. So yeah, you have to go like clear out there for the Fern, because God, I throw on the occasional lucha mask for parties, and I know just like. Okay, well, one, I don't have my glasses on, and so that affects my
For
vision
sure.
too. Uh, but barring that, just I mean, even if you don't have like we'll say like a Hollow Wicked style with the with mesh over the vision over the eye holes, like we're being in a mask is definitely a different experience, and I'm not sure if I could pull off. Not that I'm coordinated in any way to do regular in ring work, but I'm not sure if I could pull off with like some of my peripheral vision and whatnot taken out by wearing a mask. So like kudos, especially with everything else that you got to juggle to go along with the new role. Well, the different role, I guess, is not new at this point. Um, but kind of like kind of like Taylor on this. Like, this is what we're doing now. Like, I guess I want to phrase it as what are some goals that you have for the future? Like, well, we'll call it like a 5-year plan or whatnot. Like, what do you want to accomplish in the next couple of years or so?
Ideally, I'd like to win a singles title. Um, I know that's probably everybody's every wrestler's goal one day, but I think it's something achievable in the next 5 years, um, and I think it's something I could see myself doing. Um, this is oddly specific, but I'd really like to wrestle for Ring of Honor slash AEW. I know that's kind of under the umbrella of that, but specifically Ring of Honor. I am very much a fan of that promotion, and have been um, taking the time when I can to go back and watch it. Um, and just everything about it, just the aesthetic and the legacy that Ring of Honor has, all the wrestlers that have come through that promotion. I would really love to wrestle specifically for Ring of Honor, just to you say what you want. It's not what it used to be. I just want Bobby Cruz to announce my name in a Ring of Honor ring. That alone would be a dream come true for me. Another goal that I think is achievable is to wrestle for Josh Barnett's Bloodsport. I've had the privilege in the last twice in the last few years to go to his MMA gym in California and learn from him. He very much takes a pro wrestling approach to his teachings. Because not only was he a pro wrestler, but he was also he's a very well-renowned mixed martial artist and teacher, coach. So, to learn from him, the kind of blend of catch wrestling, with a professional wrestling approach, or even in the inverse, pro wrestling with a catch wrestling approach. Has been really cool, and wrestling for Bloodsport would absolutely be a big goal on my list to achieve.
To interrupt you real quick, have you like fantasy booked like who's your ideal opponent in Bloodsport, or have you just like settled right now I want on the show and haven't thought about who you'd like to wrestle?
Yeah, I don't think I've thought too much about it. I think I was maybe okay. I was thinking about it today. Um, maybe further down the line, someone who I've wrestled twice before that I think just I mesh with really well, and could potentially be like almost like an opponent that I would like to be almost married to, in the sense of that we just keep wrestling over the years, is A-Game Joseph Alexander. He's based out of New York, trained at T2T Academy in Brooklyn. He wrestled for the first time, I want to say in 2022 or 2023, at a Limitless Dojo taping, back when we were both pretty green and pretty new. And we just kind of hit it off. And then we wrestled again a couple of years later on a Limitless Wrestling show. I want to say that was in 2024. Yeah, that was last year, October. And we didn't have a lot of time to prepare for that because he was, oddly enough, double shotting from Connecticut. He had a show early in the day in Connecticut and then drove all the way up to Maine, made it right before bell time. And we put the match together at about 8 minutes, and I thought we knocked it out of the park, and had an amazing match. And we're 1-1, so a rubber match is definitely due, wherever that will happen. But wrestling him at Bloodsport, like if we both made our Bloodsport debut and wrestled each other, I think would be really fitting, and really, really cool, because we are both amateur wrestlers alike, from two different areas. He wrestled in New York, I wrestled in New Hampshire and Massachusetts. So that would probably be, the probably most achievable, opponent. But Royce Isaacs is someone who helped me get my foot into the door to Josh Barnett's MMA gym. He's been absolutely killing it, wrestling some really, really big names at those Bloodsport events. So would be cool to wrestle him. I actually enjoy wrestling bigger men. It's something, that just kind of works. Big guy versus small guy, David versus Goliath. So that would be really cool, and I feel like I'd learn a lot from a guy like him. There's only two that I can really think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there's more, like a Zack Sabre Jr. or a Katsuhiro Shibata, who's just, those are two of my dream opponents, just for a regular pro wrestling match. But to wrestle them in Bloodsport would also be absolutely insane.
I definitely think the way you described the A-Game situation, I think that'd just be a natural progression of, even if it's not a proper rivalry yet, like you said it yourself, you guys are split right now. Now's the time to get into Bloodsport and get that. No ropes, no pinfalls. There has to be a winner.
Yep.
But I have to make the joke because my experience with A-Game was he hit a guardrail so hard in Chicago that it caused a ripple that it caused a ripple effect and took out my wife.
Oh my goodness!
Right next to me. Like we thought we were safe because we were like 3 guardrails away, and like nope, he took that guardrail full body.
Wow.
And smacked her right in the chest. She was fine. Didn't even leave a bruise though. I'm the one who got bruised later in the night from an Atlantis Junior dive. But but anyway, that's unfortunately for your anecdote, so heartfelt, and like first thought goes to my head is like, that game smacked a guardrail so hard it hit my wife, and great. But no, that is like really cool though, and like I love the Bloodsport experience too, just because again it's so different from everything else that's going out there, and I also very much enjoy that your brain didn't go right to say like Zack Sabre Jr. or John Moxley or any other like semi-regular in the Bloodsport who's not that they're not killing it all over the world, but just you got a built-in story for that, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
But we've been talking for a bit and try to be respectful for your time, so we'll kind of wind things down here. So where can we find you in the next couple of weeks, and where can we find you on social media to keep tabs on where you're going farther than the next couple of weeks?
Okay, you can find me on social media at Seabass Finn on Instagram and formerly Twitter, now X. In the coming weeks, let's see. Sorry, just pulling up my calendar here. Sometimes I forget. August 22nd, Friday, I will be at home, Chaotic Wrestling in Watertown, Massachusetts. The following day, August 23rd, I will be at Rad Pro Wrestling making my first title defense against Lord Shreds. That's Miracle Generation. And then August 31st, I will be back at Pro Wrestling Grind. They have a show in Montague, Massachusetts, at a heavy metal music festival, RPM Fest. That should be an absolute blast. Those shows are always super fun. And yeah, that's really it for the rest of the month. A few more places. Rebel Spirit in September. Chaotic Wrestling is a doubleheader weekend for their, I believe, 25-year anniversary, September 12th and 13th in Lowell, Massachusetts, and Woburn, respectively. Yeah, that's all I got so far for the next month and a half, roughly.
There we go. And you got your socials, and I'll plug those down in the descriptor of the episode, so hopefully we can keep tabs of where you're going from there. But I want to thank you for coming on the show and surviving all the technical issues we've had and all that sort of good stuff. It was great being able to talk to you and hear about your journey throughout professional wrestling.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. If you ever want to talk again, I feel like we got in a little deep with some of the stuff, but there's definitely more that we could touch upon. So if you ever want to do a watch along or talk some more, I'd be more than happy to come back. This has been great time talking with you.
Well, thank you. I'll keep that in mind. I do once in a blue moon have repeat guests on, so we will see how your journey has changed since at least as of it'll be like what, the 15th when this drops, I think. I don't know. Head mathing right now is not great, and I mean, okay, mathing in general is just never not great, but all that sort of good stuff. But again, thank you for coming on the show. It's been great to talk wrestling with you and hear about your journey. So I'm hoping to see more of you coming up in the future.
Thank you.
The Confusion Wrestling Podcast is a weekly podcast that is written and performed by Rob Kammer and hosted by Spotify for podcasters. The background music for this section is Ruined by Day, performed by Alan Schroeder. If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to help support, please like, subscribe, and tell your friends, family, and enemies. Leaving a review is helpful as well, because word-of-mouth advertisement is very important for us small podcasts. My social media links can be found in the description, but Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky are at The Nova of Cass. That's TheNovaofCass, and Facebook is MLW Confusion, all one word. If you'd like to support monetarily and help upgrade my equipment, please check out my virtual tip jar at ko-fi.com/Casanova, or if you prefer more bang for your buck, go to patreon.com/Casanova, that's CASSONOVA, where for as little as $2, backers get access to the podcast early and without those pesky ads, plus other exclusive content. So join the crew that is headed up by Keith Wynn, Alan Schroeder, Chris Zach, and Elenia, and check it out. You can also find t-shirts, coffee mugs, and other merch at the Confusion Podcast store on Teespring. Also, be sure to check out the affiliate links in the description below. For business inquiries such as ads, sponsorships, and etc., please email rzkamer, Kamer, at comcast.net. Thank you all for listening.